Hey, it's Amy Register with Ask a Christian here with my friend Alma, who has decided today that she feels like being an open book and sharing some of the tough times in her life, including a time when God may have been asking her to quit her job. We'll start out by getting to know you a little bit, Alma, and getting to know your story. And then we'll focus a little bit on the career portion, really wanting to speak to young professionals who you have had a great impact on over the last few years, I know. And then we'll wrap it up with possibly some of your favorite resources, advice, and we'll take some questions about your story if we've got any of those. I just want to welcome the viewers we have on right now. My name is Amy. We're going to be interviewing Alma today. And we're just so grateful that you're joining us from both YouTube, I see, and Facebook. So welcome to all of you. Alma, kick us off by telling me a little bit about your faith as you were growing up. Who influenced you? How did you see God? How did you see the church? What was your growing up like as a young girl?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Amy. So I was introduced to Jesus, to God as a child. My parents had converted from Catholic to Christianity. And I grew up going to church every weekend and hearing Bible stories in the kids' Bible class. And just something about those stories, something about, Jesus being my friend, something about those really cool stories where God helped his people, his children, through all of the different trials, David and Goliath, Noah and the ark. Just all those stories just made an impact in my life, and I always carried them. And it was the start of building a foundation of my faith that I didn't realize until, now that I'm an adult and still growing in my faith, I realize how all of that was just building that foundation and making my faith stronger. And it started, very, very simple, very childlike. And along the way, I think life just kind of takes you to different things and you forget, how it started. And so I've just always been captivated by God and his omnipotence and his just how good he is and how that applies to me personally.
Now let's keep it real. Did you have a Bible crush when you were young? Did you think there was somebody in the Bible that you wanted to date or marry or even somebody that you was just a big hero?
I think I one of the stories that I really loved was David and Goliath. I mean, I feel like it's a very popular one in Christianity, but for me, what took me was that David was a young boy and he had no fear. He was confident in his father God, and I think I just always felt like I wanted to be that brave. I wanted to be that courageous, and I aimed to be that all my life. Doesn't always work out, but I just remember as a kid being really drawn to that story.
Awesome. Cool. Now, when we were kind of doing the pre-interview for this, I asked you a little bit about what your goals were. And from a young child, you kind of wanted to be a career woman. Tell me a little bit about what your dreams were and where you were headed as you got through high school, college, and were looking at what you wanted to do with your life.
Well, I have to give a little bit of context. So, like I mentioned, I was born and raised in the church, learning about God, learning about all the wonders he has done. And so from a very young age, I had, a simple understanding that I'm a child of God, that God loves me. And, it was through different trials in my life that became real. And it started as a kid. I grew up in a very broken home with a lot of pain. And God was my comfort, was my refuge. In my childlike mind, that's what I looked up to is all those stories I had learned. And so that kept me through it all. But still, that brokenness in my life took a big part. And I would get lost in feeling that I didn't belong, feeling that I was rejected. And and that, who am I? I just felt so alone. I felt like an orphan. I felt I was really broken inside emotionally. Yes, I had an overall understanding of God, but um, it was in those really hard times that it became real. And so the only thing I felt that I could control was accomplishing something. And so as a little kid, I always told myself that one day I'm going to be someone big. I'm going to be somebody important. I'm going to accomplish. I'm going to go to college and I'm going to have a great career and I'm going to make a ton of money and I'm going to show the world that I am valuable, that I am enough. But it was my own insecurity. And, I didn't necessarily have a specific, goal or dream at the time going with what I was going through. I thought I wanted to be a psychologist. I thought I wanted to help people with their problems because I needed help with mine. But God had other plans. God had a whole different vision for my life, even though I thought I knew what I wanted. But it was really just me seeking for acceptance, for value, for purpose.
Yeah. So through achievements, you're going to be somebody, no matter what it looked like.
Yeah.
And do you feel like God was with you in achieving that? Like, that's not an ungodly goal, right? I never want to
Right.
sound like aiming for excellence and
Right.
using every gift that God's given you as a negative thing. But as we'll find out later, there could be some side effects to that. But take me from the place where you got your first big break. What was happening in your life where you finally thought like, hey, I'm achieving some of these things that I've wanted to, that I've dreamed of my whole life?
Yes. So, I started my career in tech. It was a complete turnaround. I did not expect that ever. That was not what I planned. Again, plans don't always go as we think. And so I was kind of in exploration mode when I started my career, trying to figure out what I was meant to do. And, although I strongly believe God brought me to where I was from the beginning, he had me there for a reason, and I know it, and I saw his hand through it all, bringing me to each job, placing certain people in my life. I knew it was him, but I always knew inside of me that there was something more. There was something more that I was meant to do. There was a bigger purpose, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I got caught up in how I thought I made it. I come from extreme poverty. Like I said, I come from brokenness, and so for me, ending up with a degree and tech and making more money than I had ever seen in my life, it was just like, wow, like I'm so blessed. I just couldn't believe it. And so I was just like on this high, and the more I got into it, the more I wanted. And
Tell me what it looked like. Tell me what the day looked like when you felt, yeah, this is it. I have made it. Walk me into the office. What's around you? Who's there? What are you feeling? What are you thinking?
working with top level executives, working with really important people, smart people, getting to travel, getting to meet famous people. Just, I can think of one. I was in this massive arena full of people, and I was a part of that. I was a part of making that happen. I was working with the executives there, and I felt like, wow, like I'm so lucky. I made it. I'm in this place, like coming from literally, I felt like nothing. And look at all of this, and I did thank God for it. And I'm like, wow, God, like you must have me here for a reason, but I wasn't realizing that my heart was getting lost in all of that.
Yeah, sometimes it's only when looking back when we can see clearly, isn't it? I had this image of you just then, as some of my friends would call it, business Barbie, right? You look the part, you feel like you fit in, you're going to work, you got that Starbucks in your hand or whatever it looks like to you. And I know that there's a lot of people who all they want to do, I'm speaking to the women here. I don't know about you gents, but you let me know what your marks of success are for you. But for a lot of the women I know, it's partly the clothes. I look like an
Mhm.
executive. I can afford nice clothes. That's part of the things that make me feel like I've achieved something in life, is that I can buy a suit, look nice in it, that I'm going to work with professionals. So a lot of those markers you named, gentlemen, feel free to share. What is it for you? Is it a nice suit for you? Ladies, what makes you feel like you have achieved something? And it might not even be in the business world. It could be at home. But what are some of those markers that make you feel like you've arrived? I'm curious. Alma, let's get back to the story, because you continued in your career for a while, but there was a point several months in where you realized, like you said, something's not right. There's some things that were falling apart. Take me to a day where you realized, uh-oh.
Yeah, so I ended up changing companies. But at this point, when I had moved, I was already like I had felt from the beginning of my career that I needed to find like that purpose in terms of career path. But I kept on that path because I was good at it. It made sense on paper. It just looked great on paper. So yeah, keep going, keep pushing through. But when I moved companies, I was just starting to feel tired and
Mm,
starting to just be less motivated. But I was pushing through because that's what I do. I suck it up. I push through. That's what you got to do. It's in my genes, it's in my blood. Being Mexican is just like you just work hard, you hustle, and it
mm,
doesn't matter what you really want. Like, just keep going. And
mm,
so when I started here, it's this company in Silicon Valley, the dream company. It's in the backyard of where I was raised, and mind you, where I was raised was not the safest or best
mm,
place. And so, ending up at this company was another dream come true that I
mhm,
thought.
mhm,
I never dreamt to be in that company, but the door was open, and so it was like, wow, no way, I'm here. And starting there, it was like Disneyland for adults. I
mhm.
mean, you name it, anything you wanted, it was at at your fingertips. It was making good money. Again, working with important people. I mean, I got to meet the CEO, and it was just another kind of those highs that I was going through. But
This is a
again,
top 10 company in the US. This is a recognizable name. Obviously, Alma doesn't want to say it because she doesn't want to give any bad PR, but um, this is a company where just the mention of you working there is going to drop some respect, right? So
right,
there's another perk
exactly.
that comes along with it.
Exactly. And then, like I said, I always would think back to where I came from. I would
Mm,
always think back to, man, where I started, where I was as a kid, um, you know, all my dreams, and just thinking of like, I am going to work hard,
mm,
and I'm going to achieve and
mm,
accomplish this.
right.
And something, a side note that I have to mention there is, you know, my whole life I've known I'm a child of God. My whole life, God has brought me through a journey of faith and has brought me to greater depths of faith. But it doesn't mean that you have it right all the time. It doesn't mean that you're just always good. You still have temptations, you still have weaknesses, you still have struggles, and it's just a matter of are you acknowledging them? Are you realizing that? And for me, I wasn't acknowledging or realizing that I was losing myself and the things of this world, and in this case, in my career, and accomplishing and feeling that like this is where my value lies. Like, wow, I'm enough. Like, I feel like, wow, like I made it, and
Hmm. Let me ask you, during this time, were your friends and family complimentary? Like, were they excited for you?
yes, definitely, family and friends were excited. I want to say, probably family was a bit more like, oh, wow, and um, and for me, I didn't. necessarily, I guess that it was pride in some way, but at the same time, I think I also confused it with, I want my younger family members, my siblings, my cousins to see that anything is possible. That if you work
Mm,
hard, anything
mhm,
is possible.
mhm.
And so,
But you wanted to be the success story for them.
yes.
Okay,
So
a little
just
mix.
so it was kind of like I want to set that standard that like it is okay to shoot for the stars. It is okay to aim high. If you work hard, you can get there. And like I said, coming from such brokenness, I mean, I've had so many obstacles in my life, so many trials, and I felt like if I can do it, anybody can do it. And so you asked me, when was that time where I started feeling like, uh-oh. It was probably like 2, 3 months in, after the high of like, oh my goodness, I'm at Disneyland, this is great. I just started feeling, the workload was just not sustainable. The expectation was just too high.
Mm,
And just the work that I was doing, I had been doing it for years already, and I was just tired of it. I was
mm,
just tired of it, and there was no meaning to the actual work I was doing. There was no purpose,
mm,
and I started questioning, what am I doing? Like, what is my purpose in this? And it just felt tedious and repetitive, and just I started just feeling this heavy and not being motivated to go to work in the mornings, just kind of like
mm.
pushing through, just on autopilot.
If you're out there watching this and you're in that space, and if your employer's watching, don't do this. But if your employer is not watching and you've ever felt that, or if you're feeling that right now, you can type amen, because we'll see you, we'll pray over you. But is there anything about this, Alma, that was above the normal level of job dissatisfaction? Right? Because um, what I'm asking is, at this point, do you think God was trying to speak to you, or is this you just totally being burnt out?
It was both. I was very burnt out, and God was trying to speak to me, but I couldn't hear him. I didn't see it because
Hmm.
I was lost in where I was at. It was, for me, it was like, I'm here. I'm not, I'm physically okay. Like this is everybody wants to be here.
Hmm.
Just suck it up, just push through. And I kept thinking, oh, in a year, then I can move into a different team or whatever. And so to me, there was just no question. It was just like, just push through. It's just a different environment. I kept trying to make excuses.
Hmm. Okay. So when did it come tumbling down where you knew, I have to get out of here? This is not working. This is not where God wants me. He may have wanted me here for a time, but that time is up. There's something else down the corner. Take me to that day. When was the day
Well,
you knew?
I'll take it to the day, but even that day, I didn't know. I didn't see
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Even that day, I didn't see it. So one day I had a major nervous breakdown,
What's that
and
mean?
I I don't even know how to explain it,
Is
but
it physical? Is it a feeling?
it was a physical feeling, and it was just like this dark, just panic. I had
Mm,
panic attacks.
mm,
I had physical symptoms. My chest was just gonna just it was just so painful. I couldn't eat. I could not pass anything. And that was just the beginning of a pretty painful journey of God trying to show me where I had gotten lost,
mm.
that I had forgotten where I came from and who I belonged to and where my
Ooh,
purpose lied.
mm. At this time, did you have any support system? Were you surrounded by friends, family, pastors? Like, was there anybody trying to go through this with you, or are you kind of an island?
Yes, I have an amazing support system. My pastor, who's been my spiritual counselor and friend for years, she was with me through this all, and she gave me a lot of wise advice and perspective. Um, but I still couldn't see it.
Mm.
It was just, for me, I couldn't understand what was happening, because it was a combination of physical and emotional and mental, and it was just a really, really dark time for me.
And obviously, you are not still in this job. So, how did that exit progress go? Like, how did the Lord finally get you out of this unhealthy situation?
Well, like I said, I had to go through a series of medical situations, and a lot of just seeking the Lord, because I was in such a dark place. It was a dark time of anxiety and depression, and feeling like, not knowing, not understanding what was happening. Why am I feeling this way? I
Mm.
mean, it was like I lost so much weight within 2 weeks.
Mm.
It was just a series of things happening. There was sick family members, and it was just like my world just fell on me. And
Mm.
it was in that desperate, dark time that I said, Lord, I can't, like, if this is how I'm going to feel for the rest of my life, I'd rather die.
Mm.
I'd rather not live. Like, there's just no, I don't accept it. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want this feeling of helplessness and hopelessness in me. And like I said, my pastor had been praying for me, and my church. I'd go to church every single weekend and just cry and cry and cry, because I felt so
Mm.
helpless. And my pastor did advise me, you need to quit your job. It sounds like it's causing you a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. But I just couldn't see it, because how am I going to quit my job? Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like people would do anything for this job. People move here from all over the world for working for this company, and I just could not let it go. And
Mm. Mm.
I had to go through some, extensive therapy as well, and just in those dark times when God was showing me and speaking to me, because I wanted to hear him. At that point, I was like, okay, God, tell me what, because
Wow.
I feel like I'm not going to get out of this one. Like, I feel like I've been through so much in life, but this time I feel like I'm not getting out of this one.
Right.
And he started showing me, again, through the people in my life who have been great spiritual support
Mm-hmm.
and praying for me. And everybody else saw it, but I didn't see it. And
Yeah.
even my therapist was like, "Sounds like you need to quit your job." And I was like, "Yeah, right."
So you have all
Um,
these messages from people that you know and love
yes,
and trust, and
yes,
finally it builds up to the point where you do let it go, and you took
yes.
medical leave, and then you finally quit your job. And tell me about life on the other side of that, what you referred to as panic attacks or anxiety over this. How has God been speaking to you since this happened?
God is so good. Even when we're stubborn, or just ignore him, he still has mercy and grace on us. And he's just reminded me, that my purpose is not on anything of this world, but in being a child of him. I'm his child. My purpose is in him, and my identity is in him. And so he's reminded me of that, because again, I got lost. It's easy to get lost in the things of this world. It's easy to just think of the pleasures of this world and how I want to feel good and how I want to do this. But God was like, no, remember who you are in me.
Mm, mm.
Remember that a job is not the it. A job, a career is the means. It's a tool that I'm going to use for you
Yes.
to share my love to others. It is
Yes.
not the it. I'm the it. I'm
Yes.
your ultimate reward. I'm your purpose. I'm your hope. I'm your stability. I'm your security. And like I said, like, while I knew this, because I've been in this journey all my life, like you forget, you know, you have your tendencies, and that's one of my tendencies. That's one of my weaknesses, and trying to keep finding value in everything else. And I forget, like, no, remember, you're a child of God. And
Mm.
and the way that he sees it is different from the way the world sees it. Society tells you that this is success. If you have this title, if you make this much money, if you have these possessions, if you travel the world, if you buy a house, if you're a U.S. citizen. And God's like, no, I
Mhm.
set a standard for success, and you're going to be successful while you walk with me. And the way it looks
Yes,
to me is different than what the world tells you.
that's awesome. Hey, I just want to take a minute to thank our community watching. Thank you, Denise. And now there's a lot of people saying really nice things. Michael Reed is popping up in here, and Jennifer Jill, and Gloria Gonzalez de Valencia, and Erica Rivera. I just want to thank you guys for all your positivity and your comments and being here with us as Alma just kind of bears her soul. I really like what you were talking about is, you know, it's incredible to me to think that God can bring you somewhere where you could be, where I could be right now. God has truly brought us here, but there might be a time when he asks us to leave that. And can we do it? Can we give it up? So what would you say to people watching? Perhaps they're, you know, newly Christian or marginally Christian, or maybe they haven't been really involved and they feel God's blessings on them right now. How would they ever know? How would they know when it was time to move on? Any ideas on that? If God was asking them to leave, even though he probably brought them there.
I think, just with my personal experience, is keeping in mind, being mindful of, are you putting your whole like value and just meaning in this specific thing? Are you thinking that this is who you are and that's it? Or are you understanding that, you know, this is where God has you for now for a reason, but it's not all of who you are. It's not just that.
Mm.
It's not, again, like I say, it's not the things of this world, but it's the purpose that you have and the meaning that you have in God. And if you know that, if you're aware that, okay, I love my job and that's great, but you just make sure that you don't get lost in it, where you forget who you are,
Mm.
where you just put everything on that. No, because as we can see, obviously with the things happening in the world right now, and I know we're tired of talking about it, but think about
Mm.
it. Ask yourself, you know, one, where's your identity? What is it on? And two, where's your hope? And think about, is that sustainable?
Mm-hmm.
You know, with what we're going on, what's going on in the world, we can see that jobs are not secure. We can see that even people that have money, millionaires, they can't spend their money right now. So what is it that you're placing your identity on? What is it you're placing your hope on? And is it sustainable? And let me tell you, nothing in this world,
Mm.
I don't care what you can think of, is not going to fulfill you, is not going to keep you strong, is not going to keep you grounded when the storms of life come. They
That's
won't.
right. That's right. I know people who wake up every morning checking their phone, seeing their investments. Oh, they're up one day, they're down another day. Or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, am I going to be able to go into work today? I mean, when you think about what you truly have,
Mm-hmm.
it's relationships with people you love,
Mm-hmm.
relationships with God, your character. I mean,
Yep.
it's just very few things that
Yeah,
someone cannot take away. So,
absolutely.
what else do you want to tell us about the process that God's had on your life in the last couple minutes? Is there anything that we've left out that you really thought, man, I just really wanted to say that one thing and didn't get there, or didn't come out right?
I think I shared, I think just what I just said now was really the biggest thing. I mean, honestly, we can keep wandering, you know, in the world all by ourselves, thinking we got it, thinking we have it figured out, or we'll figure it out on our own, or I know best, or thinking that if I obtain this, if I find a spouse, if I have a kid, if I buy a house, if this and that, then I'll be happy. Then that. But you know what? You're going to keep looking. You're going to keep trying and trying and trying, and you're still going to feel empty, and you're still going to have that void. And really, the only one that is meant to fulfill that in your heart is God. Not, while I love my husband,
Not your significant other.
no, I love my husband so much. He is a big old hunk that I love so much, and he's great. I know he's a blessing in my life. But you know what? During the dark times that I went through, while he was a great support and he was praying for me, and it was great to have him there, I knew that he wasn't meant to give me that peace and comfort. No, I knew that it was only God who was going to set me free from that darkness, who was going to bring me through that depression, and he was the anchor for my soul. He is my hope. And he's the one that brought me through this with my husband's support, with my community support.
Sure.
But it's God ultimately who is meant to fulfill you, who's meant to love you. And that's really what he wants. I mean, his word says, he kept bringing me back to Psalms 23. It's a very popular psalm for Christianity. But it was the first time in my life, okay? Like I said, I grew up in the church, that I actually had an in-depth study of Psalms 23 and was able to a little bit understand. In my finite mind, God showed me and revealed who he is. And one of the things that he kept bringing to me is like, surely goodness and mercy will pursue me all the days of my life. So it just reminded me that God is always pursuing us. He is always pursuing you. And he wants to be a part of every single aspect of your life. There's no departments that, okay, the spiritual is here, my job is here, this is here. No, it's all together. It's God wants us to see our life completely with spiritual lens, with an eternal perspective, that everything is spiritual. He wants to know everything, and he wants you to know him. And so I would challenge you, get to know him personally and intimately. That is just something that you cannot, you can't go wrong with. You cannot go wrong with getting to know him personally, and to be known by him is the most beautiful thing.
Thank you so much, Alma. I want to thank Danessa, Vanessa, Delia, Angelica, Niles. Thank you so much for your comments at the last. We really appreciate you guys joining us, making it more of a community here. And just reading some of the comments that I did not flash up on the screen. Alma, there are some people going through this right now, and people who this has really touched their heart, people whose faith is being tested right now. And to those, I want to join Alma in speaking to you and just saying, there really is something to this Jesus. There really is something to this faith. Don't look at the hypocrisy of Christianity. We know it's there. It's very unfortunate that people put a label of Christian and then go out and act like the most ridiculous, hurtful person. We're sorry about that. But there is something to Jesus, his goodness, his mercy, that changes our hearts and makes us want to be the best people we can be, and creates joy despite some of these trials. So I don't know if God is calling you out of your job right now, or out of a different situation, or like Alma said, ultimately is just trying to teach you who you really are. But if that's you today, if you have felt touched by this, if you want to explore more of this, leave me a comment or send a message through Facebook, facebook.com/askachristianfriend. I am absolutely willing to study any of these topics in depth. I bet Alma would even join me.
Yes.
If you guys wanted to get even deeper into our identity in Christ, or what he's calling you to or out of, we can explore that together. So just let us know. We're here for you. We're here for personal study as well. And with that, I just want to thank Alma one more time. Alma, you can stay on after I end the broadcast and we can chat.
Great.
But yeah, I just want to invite you one more time. If you're within the sound of my voice and you feel like God is calling you, if you want a special prayer, if you want special study, just know that that is why this channel is here. And we thank you for joining us. And we will see you, I believe, next week with Jim Marks Miller, who is a ex-school teacher and salmon fisher in Alaska, to tell you some stories about how God has worked in his life. So we'll see you next
Okay.
time. I'm wishing you joy and peace for your journey, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.